We don't advertise that. We just try to act on it.
If you don't have that destination that you're crafting your life around, I just feel like you're not going to get to the destination that you so desire.
What's keeping us afloat right now is flipping.
Then I saw a lot of people go out of business. Then I saw Novation save a lot of people. Now I'm seeing Novation slow down observationally from my end. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Leads to Deals podcast, where we talk about everything from leads to deals and everything we talk about leads to deals. If you're here, it means you're driven to level up your life, skyrocket your financial success, and master the art of sales, entrepreneurship, and persuasion. I believe that this podcast is for you, the go-getters, the deal makers, and the industry disruptors. I have a special guest on our podcast today. Is a young man by the name of Michael Stansbury, a serial entrepreneur, over 20 years of domination in the Memphis REI space, real estate investor, wholesaler, father of four, and a faith-driven leader, which we're going to get into very deeply in this podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Michael Stansbury.
Thank you, Scott. Happy to be here.
Dude, I did a lot of research on you, right? Like I know of you. I have a business relationship with you. I was aware of you, and as I started to dig in, I said, "Oh man, this guy's really a faith-driven guy and family-driven guy as well too." And so, just right out of the gates, how are you as a CEO or a co-founder? How are you building a team around you that also buys into those principles, or you're able to find people who are in alignment with your faith-driven principles in business?
So great question. So one of the things is the way that I operate this business is kind of from a household perspective. And so I read a book a couple of years back called The Household and the War of the Cosmos. And basically what it did is it just showed how families operated throughout time and what the best way to do that was. And so it kind of changed my perspective. COVID changed my perspective because I have a son that's 22. He works in the business with me, and I've been he's been knowing about flipping houses and working with me since he's 15. So it's in his blood. And when he got to that age of 18, he was, he had to make decisions about what he wanted to do. And I was like, man, come on. And he was like, yeah, this is what I need to do. And So, we're building a kind of a family business, and everything that we do operates from that kind of top-down structure, not necessarily a corporate structure, but that's what we do. And so we kind of filter everything we do within the business from there. I have an assistant, Melissa, and a couple virtual assistants.
Nice.
We just incorporate, we do something that's I think it's becoming more and more in business is we don't push it down your throat, our faith, but we just say, hey, this is a big part of what we do. This is the reason why we do it. And we try to apply principles from scripture to our business. Are we 100%? No, that's why we got to go back and change some things. But that's what we try to operate out of. We try to, love your neighbor as yourself, serve people. The scripture is really, it's really deep when they say you got to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, most folks spend time to really dig into really what that means. And that's how we try to operate within our business for the people that we sell to, from the people that we're buying from. And then we do a lot of fix and flips and all our subcontractors. We want just to treat people right. I think that's why we've had, and Scott, there's people that come in and out of the business for a short period of time. I've been flipping houses since 2008. And didn't start doing any kind of assignments or wholesaling until 2015, but we've been able to maintain that as my primary income for that period of time. And it's not me. It's this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is kind of the calling that I have on my life as far as what the work I'm supposed to be doing. So does that make sense?
It does, man. And I do a lot of sales training here with my staff. And one of the things I'm really big in is authenticity. And, commission breath. And there's all these types of vibes that you can give through to people. Sometimes it's your mannerisms. And if it's over the phone, it's not the body language, but it's how you communicate. And what I love when I deal with companies like yourself, or have those men in my life who have their companies and they're out there and they expose these values, is it comes through to whoever the recipient is authentic as well too. And it comes through refreshing. So I'm sure while you're out there and you're trying to help and you're meeting with sellers or you're communicating with buyers, because that's your foundation, I'm sure you probably observe that they pick up on it and they feel it and they might choose you over somebody else because of the values that the company is built on.
That's right. So we've been able, we win some and we lose some to competition. Sometimes we win and we're the lower price, but they just like us and like the way that we execute. And then they've done their research. I always tell people, and I hope my competition should be doing this too, is whenever I leave an appointment, whenever I talk to somebody on the phone, I say, hey, go look me up, go look at our reviews, go look at what people say about me. This is the first or second time you're ever dealing with me. Go back and look at the people that, have done deals with us in the past or been our customers, and they'll give you a picture of who we are. And, that is like, it just, everything falls down after that. After they've done the research, I get texts. Yeah. Hey, I just want to work with you. It seems like you guys know what you're doing. Even though I got a higher offer, I want to work with you guys.
Yeah.
And that comes through in the genuineness. Now I'll tell you, the opposite is true too. I've seen guys put their stuff on their business card. Hey, I'm this way. My faith is, we don't advertise that. We just try to act on it. If that makes sense.
Amen. Yes.
We try to just take action in that direction and to let that speak for itself. And it really does translate into, the more people you can help, the better you're going to do in this business from a genuine perspective, and from that heart of, I want to solve your problem.
I love it though, man. There's so many people out there without a compass, and I love dealing with people, no matter what your faith base may be. Just to know that it's a foundation, it's a pillar, right? That means that you have something that you're building off of. It's not fly by night. It's not willy-nilly. You're not going to be pushed in whatever the direction of the trend may be out there in the industry. But I'm curious, out of all these interactions you've had, have you had any, like you're going into the house and then an emotional conversation's happening? Are you having those really deep connections, like one-off story that something ever happened where like you're grabbing hands and you guys are y'all having a prayer, or you're helping somebody through a moment that you can share with us, man?
Absolutely. So I'll share one. So my son's again, he's 22 years old, and love him. And so the hardest and best part of this business is that. So sometimes he comes in and he'll tell me the story about the appointment, because he goes on these acquisition calls, and he'll meet with a lady that is in her 70s and her husband just passed, and she's meeting with the daughter and the son. And they're trying to move her into an either assisted living facility. And they're really worried. They met with 2 or 3 other people, and they've gotten offers. And then, my son goes in there and he just starts the conversation. I ask him about, hey, ask him about the origin story of the house, especially when somebody's been living there for 40 years. And, and repeat back to them, all the things that you love about their story. So what happens then is, there's some real pain going on, and he could see that, they just buried their father a month ago, and they've got the death certificate and they're ready to move on. And, he will, when it's appropriate, right?
Sure.
He's like, hey, you mind if I pray for you before before I leave? And this is after we've already done the transaction. This is after we've already paid. And so he'll sit there and he'll do that. And then we'll go to the closing table, and it's just a beautiful thing. And then, all these things happen organically. So there's lots of stories like that. Another situation where it was an older couple, and they were in their 80s, and they were actually church members of ours. And they both had, one of them had dementia, one of them Alzheimer's, but they were living in this house for 20 years. So we went there and we realized all of a sudden, okay, they need to have somebody else that is there with them to help make the decision. So we called their daughter in Little Rock, and we waited for her to be here so we could sit down with them, because the house was in way disrepair, and they were looking at people's offers, and here's the truth. People were making very low offers on this house, and they were considering them. We could pay them more, okay, and give give them get them what they needed so they can, move on to the next stage of life. But we, because we just, again, if we take advantage of somebody, that's going to boom right back at us. And so the daughter was very thankful that we took care of it. She would call us up and say, "Hey, thanks for taking care of my parents," because that's a situation that a lot of folks in this industry find themselves in. As people are going through a significant life change at the moment that you meet them, and if you're not equipped to handle some of the emotional stuff, then you may lose out on it. And so you have to be vulnerable, and you have to work on that part of yourself to really connect with a seller in that way.
It's so funny because the whole time I'm like tying all this into sales principles. And, I think there's a big difference between sympathy and empathy. And what you're saying is just like there's all these beautiful things where you're able to show and lead with compassion because that's just the structure of your business. It's the structure of how it's built, but it's also what gets people to open up. And so when you in sales and you're able to have these types of in-depth conversations, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Like that is just a fact that'll last longer than me and you on this globe. And so if you come into it with that caring heart and you're genuine, I'm telling you, it's like an aroma. It's a fragrance. Doesn't even matter the product that you're in. It ends up getting them to open up. And that's literally all of our job. A good salesperson is a good questioner. And it's so much easier when you can ask a small question and you get back a long response. And so for me, these principles that are probably natural, I assume you're also teach your son. So I guess let me ask on that. Is your son like the core acquisition guy? And what's his name?
His name is Colin Stansbury,
Colin.
and we love acquisitions. It's one of those things that I'm not willing to let go of because again, I love meeting people. So, so he went on a lot of acquisitions with me up until he was about 20, and then he started going on his own. And then what we would do is we would get together and then we would talk about
Nice.
all the things, all the whole conversation, how that went. So we were basically 50-50 on acquisitions and going on there. And so we don't do too much over the phone. We don't do too much over the phone closings. We just try to get in their kitchen so we can have those conversations.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
that's it. And he's been through Steve Trang's training.
Nice.
He goes over that, and he's read Chris Voss's book, and where I'm constantly. In fact, I was giving him we're giving a hard time yesterday. I asked him. I said, "Hey, it's been a minute since I've asked you, but who are you? What are you consuming right now?" And he goes, "Man, I've just been really distracted by the NBA and sports and the Grizzlies." Or he goes, "I and some other stuff. So I need to get some good content going." And he just he self-regulated himself. So that's kind of and he's been mentored. One of the things that I did, if you have any probably the best thing I ever did for him is when he was growing up. I don't know if you were like this, Scott, when your dad tried to teach you something, you heard it, but it didn't really get in. And so I had other people that I knew that were in my industry or adjacent. This was during COVID when you couldn't do anything. I had them set up Zooms with them so he could talk to them like we're talking now for 45 minutes to ask them what their origin story, how they operate in their
Wow.
business, how did they get to where they got. And guys like Sean McCloskey and Steve Cook, Steve Cook, who was with Life and Air, and then one of our guys that's local, his name is Chris Wark. He has a website called Chris Beat Cancer, and he beat cancer without going to chemo, and he's a good buddy of mine. But they all had these great stories that they don't get, entrepreneurial stories too, that they don't get when they're being educated in the school. And they also don't show the origin story, like what does it take for a man to operate as a husband, father, business owner? What does all that look like? And so he got a lot of that stuff too. So the issue is now all his friends are older.
Yeah.
Yep. He doesn't like hanging out with kids his age because he operates on a different level. That's this biggest frustration.
Well, that's good, man. These types of communication skills are literally the foundation for everything. As not only just a sales professional and somebody who's trying to help him build a portfolio, but all entrepreneurial pursuits. I know your guys' market. What I know, you're in Memphis proper, correct?
Yes.
Let me tell you from a marketing perspective, if I wasn't talking to you, what I would say to somebody else who maybe my current beliefs, I say, man, that's a very unique market. I look at it as a high velocity, low spread market. I think that there is a lot of tough areas in Memphis that if you're not from Memphis, you're going to really get burnt going virtual into Memphis. There's a lot of homes there that are priced right, but there's a lot of really bad communities where you can't even really give them away. And the foundations and the structures of these houses are a little bit older. So walk me through what I just said there that's like not accurate or accurate. Like give me the help.
So the accuracy is pretty. There are some zip codes that we just stay away from, and some certain ages of houses that we stay away from, right? But if anything above 1950, and there's a couple areas inside the loop of Memphis. If you're looking at it, Memphis has a I-240 loop. There are a couple areas in there that we would fish all day in, and then outside in the loop, there are as well. But one of the things that we do, I would say that it is true. There's a lot of competition in our market. They're coming in and out, and we've had phenomenal wholesale spreads. With the last couple of years, but in these last 18 months, I think they've waned a little bit. But we have a pool of buyers that we usually wholesale to, and one of the things that we try to rely on is volume. So that if we have a $5,000 or $6,000 wholesale fee, that's still, we love those. And then every now and then we'll crush it with a $40,000 or $50,000 one. But we know that people, know the volume. So a lot of what you said is true. I would say that this market it's going to be interesting. So it's in February. One of the things in our market that's happening now that we're really aware of is the immigration thing. So I talked to a lot of my Hispanic realtors and homeowners, and there's a little fear out there about what's going on. So they got to fix the immigration thing pretty quickly, and figure out how the people that haven't, I guess, have been here but not committed a really serious crime get and stay here, because a lot of them are going to start self-deporting if that kind of that happens. And then we'll have in other markets in Memphis, we'll have a lot of inventory, and prices will go down. So that's one of the things I'm seeing in our market right now. And that, that's again, in as a real estate investor, we just adjust. We just figure out what we need to do and adjust.
Yeah.
But those are the things that are kind of happening right now in our market.
So as of right now, it's just the fear in the air per se, or it's the concern in the air. You haven't necessarily seen the volume drop in regards to offers being made as of yet. They're just putting it out there, or are you already starting to see an impact?
Well, on the retail side, the Hispanic community is not making offers on property on the retail side. There are some, just like it with any community, there's some that are rent, that's some that are owned. And so, that we're seeing that, but we're not seeing, those that own property put their house on the market and the volume of listings, go up. So I'm monitoring every day. Every day I look at the MLS and see how many houses went back on the market, pending and active. And so I haven't seen that part up. So
Yes, sir.
that's the fear part, right? Because you're hearing it, but you're not seeing it. But what I do know from the community is right now they're kind of putting a pause on buying anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think for some of the markets that we're closely tied to, which is Dallas, and then also my hometown, which is Richmond, Virginia, is a market that, like the whole South Side where I grew up, is now primarily a Hispanic community. Like the entire community is completely Hispanic now. I wonder for our upcoming flips and stuff that's in the pipeline, how that will be for our contractors out there in regards to timeline to complete. I know it'll get done, and I know it's quality people. It's all ran by quality humans, but I'm curious to see when that impact starts to come in, if any, and then what ends up being the upside, if any, to that as well too, because everything ebbs and it flows. And so I like what you're saying in your market. I have some questions on how it's going to impact the repair side of the business.
Yes. So I have a buddy of mine who actually he does most of my work. He got his visa, but he had to go back in January to Colombia, your neck of the woods. And he was scheduled to come back February 1st. Well, they delayed him. They didn't say you're not coming back, but they just delayed his visa. So he's sitting there kind of in the queue waiting. And so my whole thing is that, okay, that's really happening. if that's really happening, then we got to figure out a ways to adjust. And I'm texting y'all on WhatsApp an hour before this talk, letting him know like, hey, whatever you need from me, man, I'll do it. He's got his family here. He's got kids here. And I said, we'll take care of you. And cause he takes care of us. But I think this will get figured out. And again, I think that, again, what we have to do is always adjust to the things that we can't control and then move forward. So we're looking forward to figuring that out.
Yeah, I like the real estate market. I'm new to it, Mike. I've only been in it for about 4.5 years myself, somewhere, I guess really 5 technically. And I just loved the whole concept when it was first, like I had invested in some deals and I had, gotten returns or gotten equity in some deals, but I never really paid attention to it. But once I understood the mechanics, particularly of how like the wholesaling concept worked, it really rocked my world. And I think about Southside. I was thinking about you and your market before I came in here. I said, one of my missions with this podcast overall is not only to inspire people to look at sales as a profession. And I don't even think sales is a good enough word to justify learning communication, the art of persuasion in a positive way. My grandfather, before he passed away, he was a Southern Baptist minister. And so I grew up in Virginia. We didn't have snakes, but we was screaming. And so like I've always been around that vibe, Mike, and I didn't grow up in the nicest of areas. Like Memphis has a lot of just middle class, lower middle class, just calling a spade a spade. And I look at all those houses and I think about all the dumb things I did as a teenager, Mike, in the young 20s. I didn't know that all these stupid houses that were empty right here there was no felonies, there was no charges. Kids are doing, the people in these neighborhoods that you're helping out of, if they just knew that this industry existed, Michael, they could just comprehend how relative easy it is compared to whatever they're doing, it could really change an entire market. So I just want to get that message out to those kids that are living beside these trap houses. You can make money off of that house.
Yeah, one of the things I try to do too. I love that you want to continue to you want to inspire people is with my contractors. Some of my contractors that I work with have become my buyers because they got the contracting thing right. They're very skilled in labor, but they don't have the skill of, hey, how do I keep wealth? How do I build wealth? And one of the things is sometimes they're not going to ask you, but it's some that really will take that risk. It's good that they'll do that, and I love that. But some, when you have to ask the question, hey, do you own your own property, or why haven't you started flipping houses? And they have one of the biggest pieces already taken care of. You just gotta grab the other and marry those other pieces and show them like, hey, it's simple, not necessarily easy, and you got to execute a different thing. But let me walk you through it. And so one of the guys, Octavio, he's one of our contractors, and we've been able to wholesale him some properties, and he's just, so I flip houses, but I'm not as I flip houses, but I'm not so meticulous on the house that it's just wonderful. I'm meticulous on the house, so it's gonna move, so it's gonna sell. So with Octavio, because he has that skill set where he's got the labor piece and he can manipulate that a little bit, his houses are phenomenal and they move off the market. But he learned that skill set. He learned how to use his money and use other people's money in order to flip houses and do those things to where he can still be a contractor and make really good income there and then build as well on the side. And so, and he's teaching his kids that. And then Carlos, the gentleman I talked to earlier, I said, hey, how many houses have you rehabbed? And I've rehabbed over 100 for this one company alone. So he got paid to do that. I said, well, have you ever thought about doing this for yourself? I just don't know how. Okay, let me show you how. And then once you put it on paper or whiteboard it a couple times, they understand it, and walk them through one, and then it's over. It's Katie bar the door. Then it starts to repeat, and they can create wealth. And that's one of the things that makes us also different is we got a pool of buyers that we created on our own.
I love that.
So, and when you're in the business long enough and you get equity with people, they trust you. So when I send a deal out to my individuals, I always tell them, I said, here are the comps, here's the deal, but do your own due diligence. Within about 5 minutes, they're like, yeah, I'll take it. So It's always that caveat. And so, I teach them how to do their own diligence, but I provide all the information, no holds bar, all the unfiltered data about their comps, and they can see it for themselves. And I don't give them bad deals. So that's how you can create your own little ecosystem.
And it's the butterfly effect, man. I'm really big on that kind of thought process. That's what I share with these kids here. It's like, if you believe in what happens down that domino effect after you do whatever deed it may be that you just spoke about there, helping them be able to price a deal, helping them be able to do their first property where they keep themselves, bringing their son into it. It's not just them. Now it's the other contractors that they're hiring or their friends are now have something to do. And then they're learning this process. And it's so beautiful. And I think that's part of the stickiness that I try to embed in our agents here. It's like, it's easy to get frustrated at the first no when you're speaking to a seller or whatever negative reaction. But we know what we're calling, Mike. We're calling people pre-foreclosure, probate, divorce, water shutoff. We're calling people who we know are having a bad day, a bad time in their life. So if you really cared about them, you would let it roll right off of you and go right into the process and let it roll off of you, because I believe in the outcome is better than their current situation. And I'm sure you had to go through these same things with your kids. So I'm just curious. My daughters are young. I put a headset on them just so they can play around and listen. But walk me through some of the first off, did he come shadow you, Mike, when you guys went out to sales presentations? Walk me through your training of him.
Yeah, so I did that. So he would come even early with me as young as 14 or 15, and even I have a 16-year-old son as well, and he comes with me just to get so that you got to give him exposure. How do you talk to people? And so I said, hey, you're just a fly on the wall, but if they ask you questions, answer. Feel free to answer them. And so it was also one of those things that a lot of sellers loved it that I brought them.
Real quick, what do you think about the human psychology made it so people loved it?
Well, because it disarmed them. Oh, he brought a son with him. So one of the things, like a little thing that I do is whenever I'm going to an appointment, I knock on the door and I step back, because I don't want them to think that I am, some aggressive salesperson. And when I have them there too, it also, I have a younger man there, and then it just kind of disarms them a little bit. And then, sometimes I'll get into talking to, Mrs. Smith, who's 70 years old, but she wants to dote on Colin and ask him about his life. So I just sit back. And so when we did that, I just sit back and let that whole thing roll for 20, 30 minutes, not say a word, and let them banter back and forth. The greatest thing about those people their age is that they don't get a lot. Some don't, is they're lonely and they want attention. And when you give them attention and you do it from a genuine heart, it's something that it kind of latches you to them for life. We had a lady had a commercial property, a lead that you guys got us, by the way. It was commercial property. I'm like, oh, I'll get a commercial property. I went for commercial assets. I was like, oh, this could be a good deal. And it was a good deal. But she was 78 years old. She used to have a service station out of this little commercial space. And then it was a car. They did leathered for cars. And then she rented it out for 15 years. So this has been in their family since 1972.
Wow.
Well, she's 78. She has a son that's 53 and he's going through cancer. And she lost her husband, the same cancer. And it took about 3 times for us to really talk to her, because every time we started talking about the property, she would get upset and go, I just can't deal with this right now. I said, all right, I'll tell you what, we'll call you next week and then we'll talk through it. And I said, if you need somebody to be on the phone with you because you're confused about anything that I'm saying, because again, you never know when they're that age, if they need somebody else to kind of mediate between them. And so she said, you would do that? You'd be okay with that? I said, absolutely. I said, you can even if you have an attorney friend that you needed to talk to. And she goes, I actually do. I said, well, let's get him on the phone and next week. And so we did. We collaborated there. But it was that, just constantly going, hey, we'll do it your way. We'll do it your way. And then connecting on that. And then at the closing table, I don't go to all my closings, but there are some that I just have to go to. And so this one I had to go to, and she was so thankful. And the closing attorney even wept and telling her the story about her husband passing away, and that her son, who who is in kind of hospice care and all the pain that's going through it. And then she was able to use this money to help with kind of the end of life stuff. And she said specifically, I'm going to use this to help bury my son. And I'm like, gosh, just, and so, but that's, that's worth getting into the weeds, that
Yeah.
stuff.
I really appreciate you sharing that, man. And I think that from everybody out there, no matter if you're in the REI space, think about the crazy chain of events that had to happen. You call a lady for a single family, and she either doesn't have that one that she's interested in selling, but she has this other thing. And then by nature, she's got this really rugged personality. What's going on in her life right now? She's lost a husband, lost a son, a random stranger is calling, inquiring. And then they're like, hey, but I'm not the buyer. Let me transfer you to this other random stranger. And then this other random stranger has to come out, and it's 2, 3, 4 times. It's like that chain of events that had to happen in place to be able to execute. Nobody could give up. Nobody could give up on the seller. Our agents over here, you guys there, the attorneys, nobody gave up on her. And that's the success stories, man, that like, dude, it makes me all of us are skilled enough we could really do whatever we want, right? Like to some capacity and degree, we could do whatever we want. But we found I fell in love with this industry because you can be a great communicator and have a crappy product and go to bed and feel crappy about yourself. There's a lot of great scam artists out there. And by the way, there's a lot more profitable sales jobs than this. It's a good one, but there's a lot more profitable. I just seen most of them be like boiler rooms or whatever it may be. And so that's why I love this. It's like, dude, I get to help people and I get to get paid handsomely. What else could you ask for?
Right. That's right.
I love it. So
Yep.
let me ask you more about your son real quick. What do you think some of his sales skill set? So face-to-face sales it's different than phones, but what are some of the like DNA that you're teaching him? If somebody young in the community is like, hey man, I want to go out there, I want to start talking to people. What are some of the tips that you would tell somebody for face-to-face sales?
Well, so the biggest tip for face-to-face sale is to look them in the eye, do the old school stuff, and stick your hand out and shake the man's hand, and really start asking questions. Yeah, and basically work on your presentation and be a lot slower than you think you need to be, and match their whatever their personality is, however they're speaking. So we have a lot of fun at our house, and so we do impressions, and we different accents and stuff like that. And I geek out on tactics sometimes, but one of the things I try to do is practice even on my wife and my family and my kids. It's hard sometimes. You take off your sales stuff, and it's for and you go home and you're comfortable, so you don't want to do that. But sometimes I'm intentional about going, all right, my daughter's in some sort of crisis. I don't actually want to deal with this because it doesn't sound fun. I want to avoid it, but let me see if I can use what I know and help her. And so when the kids are kind of clashing a little bit, I'll just look at Colin and I'll say, hey, Chris Boss, and he'll go, oh, okay, and then he'll go into asking questions and trying to negotiate terms on where we're going, or where we want to go eat, or what we're going to have for dinner, and it's hilarious. So, but but specific tactics is just slow down, talk to the person like they're talking to, match whatever body language that they're having, and really get down to the whatever sales it is, whatever you're selling. In our case, it's we're trying to make an offer on the house to help them move that asset, and whatever situation that is. But if it's a divorce situation, I always tell Colin, I said, you want to begin with this statement. Mr. Smith, it says here that you're trying to sell the property for a divorce, and you can keep me on a need to know basis. I don't need to know, but you mind sharing me kind of the details about the divorce and the divorce decree? It's only because I could help you better if I have a bigger picture of what you're trying to get with this house is. And then they'll like, and when you say, you don't need to tell me. what do they do? They're like, oh, I don't? Oh, but I will. And they start just telling you all the information that you need to know. And you just shut up. You just shut up and don't, and let them keep talking until there's some awkward silence. And then you may ask a follow-up question. Are you and your wife on the same page as far as, selling the property? Because in Tennessee, you got to have that. You got to have both of them kind of lockstep. And then, so, those are the things that I would do. If somebody is doing that, just match them, ask questions, lead with empathy, but always specific on how you're going to solve that specific problem that they just came up with. All right, Mr. Smith, so you guys are both on the same page. Here's what we're going to do next. So you're always leading them to the next thing. I'm going to look at the property. I'm going to make an offer today based on what we can buy the house for. And then maybe we can get together with your wife and see if this will work out. Does that make sense? And then just boom, let it go.
And that at the end, folks, was a tie down. Does that make sense? Makes sense, right? That was it. So perfectly well done and great advice. I have a unique perspective, Mike, where I'm teaching people outside of the country about people in the United States. And so I was really able to step outside of the box and start to really understand the culture from being outside of it. And I share the kids exactly like you said in the beginning. I share with them that there's just something magical about the phrase, do you mind if I ask? Do you mind sharing? Especially when your voice goes up at the end. It is a Pandora's box for anybody. Do you mind if I ask why you and your wife got a divorce? Do you mind if I ask, why do you think she cheated on you, bro? Like, you can say whatever you want with a smile on your face, number one. But when you're on the phone, do you mind if I ask? It opens up. And I don't know if I've ever had a single person ever be like, yes, I mind. It's a cheat code for the sales game.
Cheat code. That's right. Yes. It unlocks all of it. And it will unlock the person that is stoic. It'll unlock somebody that is stoic because you're disarming yourself. Because that person is like, I don't want to give this guy all the information because I don't, what's he going to do? And then you say something like, hey, do you mind? That means they're in control. And that's what he wants. And then they're like, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't mind. I need to let him know this stuff so he could possibly solve the problem.
I'm working on a presentation that I'm gonna be doing here soon at an event, and I was explaining I was doing closer training with somebody yesterday, Mike, and he was doing the benefits, and he would just hit me like benefit, and he was saying all the right things, but he did exactly what you were just saying not to do, which is he didn't shut up, he didn't pause. And I said, man, think about every good shooting scene you've ever seen in a movie. He shoots the bullet, then it pans to the person and you see the body go like, then they shoot it again. Just imagine if they never panned to the guy and it was like, brrr. Like you would miss all the effects. So when you're laying these benefits out, give it a moment for it to sink in. Let their body language, let it be like, and this would genuinely solve that problem with X, Y, and Z. Then shut up. As you said, shut up. Let that effect go in, but too many people just that, and then you're talking to somebody and not with somebody.
So it's easier for me to do that face to face. It's easier for my son to do that face to face. I've had a lot of coaching calls with him over the phone. And over the phone, since he's not seeing somebody, he goes too fast. I'll go a little fast and then I'll catch myself. I do the same thing. And I tell them, hey, you've got to treat them like they're right in front of you, and you got to take a beat when you make the offer, because he's done what I've done in the past. Is he made an offer and then kept talking.
I had a guy yesterday, the same guy I was doing training on. He kept on saying certainly and some other word. I said immediately, because we were in different buildings, I said, I want you to go grab 2 sticky notes and write certainly and put an X on it. And these 2 words, I need that to be on your screen right there. And so we have a lot of kids similar as I'd say at least 2 or 3 agents on the floor, where it has a big piece of paper that says, slow down. And like, I just need that reminder in front of them, because you're saying such beautiful, powerful things, but they're not as fast as you. They're old. They're having 2 conversations at once. They're having a conversation with you, and they're having a conversation in their head about what you're telling them. Is this a lie? What is he asking this for? Why is he going to do this? And if you don't allow them to have both of those conversations flow, you're just not going to be able to progress the way you want throughout your sales presentation, in my opinion. Okay, cool. So I want to know, what are you seeing? So a guy like me, let me tell you how I feel about the industry, and I'd love to hear your side. I love wholesaling, but I know there's a lot of shiny object syndrome. So this is my experience with wholesaling so far, Michael. I came into the industry, everything's great wholesaling, cherry pick a couple, but everybody's wholesaling. Hedge funds came in, then everybody was wholesaling. And it's like, oh my God, especially your market, people were just printing money in your market during the hedge fund craze. And then I saw from the call center side, it actually got really difficult because the phone hesitancy went through the roof because everybody was getting called. Then I saw a lot of people go out of business. Then I saw Novation save a lot of people. Now I'm seeing Novation slow down observationally from my end. And so, like, what are you seeing right now in Memphis for the best way to monetize wholesale, Novations, buy and hold, co-renting, co-living? What's happening?
Well, so what's keeping us afloat right now is flipping. We're wholesaling still. We gotta wholesale. Wholesaling is it 9 times out of 10. If I can wholesale a property, I'm going to do that. But we do have the ability to because we got great relationships with people that are lenders. And when I say lenders, I don't mean hard money. I mean friendly money. So one of the reasons why I've been able to last as long as I have is because I have developed my own money source, my own honeypot for these folks that have money. There's still people with millions of dollars sitting in a savings account right now, and that's also the solution that you could solve. And so I've got people that have been lending money to me for 7 or 8 years, and again, the same thing. I get money lent to me for the deal and for the improvements, and I get it at a pretty good interest rate that I negotiate with them. And so if you're good and you have time under tension under market and you can show people what you've done in the past, that's something that you can easily create for yourself. And so right now I got 5 flips going on. Do I want 5 flips going on in this market? Well, I will price those things to sell. I will make a little less money than I thought I would, but I will move them. I always move my properties, and I will take care of my investors. And so the other part is if you're in this business for the long haul, you develop your money and you develop your other people that like to purchase houses. So I do a lot with Memphis Invest, REI Nation. I love those folks. I host a lot to them. I'm always looking for deals to them. If I could sell them a deal a day, I would. Their guys always texting me, got anything for me today? I love them. I love the pressure of trying to find them a deal because that's the easy button. But right now it is flips under 300K that will move. And if you stay in that lane, you'll continue to make money. We still have hedge funds that will buy at a certain point, and we still have the REIs of the world. Once you get something that they like, they'll move on it pretty quickly. We have Mid-South home buyers. Also, there are another local turnkey operations always looking for deals, so we're trying to find them something. In fact, I'm hoping to get an email from him on a deal right now. So that's working in our market right now. But I like anything. I did the shiny object thing about 3 years ago. I was partnered with a title company. Should have never done it. It was a violation of a core value that I have. I partnered with somebody that wasn't a good person. No, I wouldn't say good person, not a partner that we had the same values of, and that hurt. But so you have to do stuff that aligns with what you're doing, with people that align with what you're doing.
What do you think your lesson you were meant to learn in that, or you walked away with that was?
Well, so I walked away knowing that money, greed, and envy is something that I thought I was like I didn't have a problem with, but because I thought, what, this is cool. I can get in this. I can make a good amount of money, and it could be like, hey, not only is he a house flipper, he now owns multiple businesses, and it was basically that type of play. So it was it seemed like, hey, it's get vertical for what I do already. And, but that was the lesson. And the other lesson was it's the amount of stress and pain you put yourself through when you're in a bad partnership is it hurts. That hurts more than losing money. Hurts way more than losing money. Money you can, we could go through a bad market. I could lose a little bit. I know I had the ability to go out and figure out how to make more money. What I don't have is how do I keep anxiousness away from me, self-induced, by a self-induced dumb decision. So that whole thing was 100% me, my fault.
I've had some great business partners and some less than great business partners. And you're smarter after each one, right? But I think it was almost as like dating when you're young. You saw the red flags,
You
they
did.
were there. You tell yourself, well, I didn't know until the end. Oh, now once the pressure's on, I realize the caliber of how they would handle things, not to malign anybody. But then the reality is you knew daggone well, you saw it, you ignored it, you saw it, you ignored it. You were given an exit, you didn't take it because of the greed button. You stuck around longer. And it's like the movies where the drug dealer, right? Like where he just goes back in for one more. And
Just
so we're
just one more trick. Just one more.
just one
Yeah.
more. So I'll share a personal anecdote, man, and I value today's combo. I When I was living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I was blessed enough to join Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I became a big brother for a young man that I talked to. Literally, it's texting today. His mom's going through open heart surgery right now in Florida, and it impacted my life. And I know it was only one, but it impacted my life in a really unique, special way because this young man was in a really, really rough socioeconomic situation. And we became friends. Like I had to sit him down and I was like, dude, I'm more than what most rappers you're following. And we just had to find an alignment. But I know you're big right now, or you're creating something. It's the Facebook community called The Forge. But tell me what you're doing right now, what your passion is, and in that similar vein where you're helping kids of a young adult framework and how you're trying to impact their life.
Well, one of the things that I love doing I'll just tell you, my wife and I have been going to our same church for 13 years. We love our church. One of the things about we volunteer at the high school, and I love high school kids. The group that I'm with now actually is my son is in 10th grade. I've been with them with the same leader since they were in 6th grade. So I've seen these guys move up. And I did the same with my son to an extent. And one of the things is my son's 22. He has still some friends. But I see that age of 18 to 25, when they reach that, there's just a lot of the hard navigation for them at that point. And so I want to collect young men between the ages of 18 and 35 into a group so they can get exposed to ideas about business and operations and about how truly a profitable business works, what that looks like, get into some things that they need to maybe consider as systems and processes that they need to be exposed to, but also on the other side, I want them to be exposed to, hey, what is life really all about? Have you dug in and figured out what your purpose is? I know at 22, so at 22, I graduated from the University of Arkansas. I thought I was going to be an ESPN broadcaster. I was going to be calling play-by-play for the St. Louis Cardinals. That's all I ever wanted to do. But what happened was, as reality hit, I got a job as a radio guy on the weekends, and it paid me like $8 an hour. And I was like, man, what is this? So I had to get a job as a bartender, and then I got exposed to real estate. And I was like, well, I just got my real estate license and here I am today.
Yeah.
But I was too prideful to really ask anybody about I had a bunch of questions. So I just kind of followed wherever the wind blew. And so, I want that to be a place where if they choose to engage, man, we can help navigate them through some things in life and answer some questions. And, I'm also personally coaching a couple guys that have businesses, and showing them things that they deeply like. Hey, I don't know anything about this on the business. Oh, okay. Well, here's my experience here, and here's somebody I'm going to point you to that knows even more than me. So I love connecting and love doing that. And so the Forge is basically that. If you're ambitious and you're a young man between those ages, and you want to learn and apply some principles there, but you also are going to be exposed to faith-based and biblical principles. It's
Nice.
not going to be thrown and shoved in your face, but it's going to be talked about in a way where you want to consume it. And I'm the person, and there's a few people in there that can help people navigate them through some of that as well.
The name Forge, is it where my head's like steel sharpens steel? We're molding you. Is that, or is it something different?
Yeah, no, you got the word picture right. It's you got the anvil and you got the piece of steel and you put in the fire. The fire sometimes it feels bad. I've been doing this stupid thing of going in a sauna for 200 degrees and going in an ice bath. You know, 15 minutes in the sauna, 4 minutes in the ice bath, and it is zero fun. Uh, well, I would say it's zero fun. Now it's kind of now I'm like I get it. I kind of like it, but I did like it at first, right? I don't
Yep.
like I can only stand 15 minutes in that heat, right?
Yeah.
Then I got to get molded. And so it is to show people, hey, you're going to go through some heat, but let's forge you into something special here at the Forge.
Yeah, I love that. I can tell you that that age group, I'm 100% in alignment. And if I could go back to my own age group, and I'll share the same question with you, but if I could go back and give myself that advice, I would have gotten clearer on how to draft out my goals the way I'm able to do in my 30s and 40s. I didn't know that that was a skill set. I didn't know that that was a requisite. I didn't understand how to supercharge those, how to manifest those, how to focus on those, how to meditate on those, how to clearly write those. And for the young men that are out there, young men and women, like if you don't have that destination that you're crafting your life around and you're revisiting it, for me on a daily basis, then I just feel like you're not going to get to the destination that you so desire. So for me, I think that's a critical thing in that age.
Yes, sir. Yep. Same. I went to college, got my degree, but I learned none of those skill sets until I met somebody that didn't go to college, a lot more successful than me, and said, "Hey, have you thought about doing this way?" And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
I love it. Where do we find the Forge at, brother?
Well, the Forge is on Facebook. You can look at it by going at the Forge, and then you can go to my personal Facebook page, and it's probably posted somewhere in that timeline as well. We just started it in January, so there'll be more information about it. I'm sure I'll send you a link that maybe you can click. It'll be maybe in the description on wherever this is posted. But would love to have you if you fit those parameters there. It's a free group, and we do have a lot of fun stuff there. We just interviewed I have a cousin that's 22, 23 years old, and he lives in Wisconsin. He opened his own gelato place with his sister, and
Nice.
they're crushing it. And so we talked to him yesterday about that.
Great. I love it, man. And my big takeaway for this, or any other young man or woman that is out there, it's we have a guy in here who's giving a lot. I think that it matters a lot. And I'm sure there's some really deep histories here that we could dig into in another podcast. But I think when somebody comes on here and they're not self-promoting and they're just pouring into others, and now you've even created this portal, if you will, the Forge, where you can go in and be around people and share in your insecurities, but also find some guidance at the end of it. And then to have everything layered into faith, because there's not a single person on the face of this earth, no matter what your beliefs are, who doesn't need a little bit more faith and can't benefit from being in the shadow of somebody who's already in their faith. And so I hope that anybody who's listening to this they find the Forge if you're in that age group, and follow you online, Mike. So I appreciate you sharing not only the professional side, which I was aware of, but more importantly, I believe, is this personal side, man. So thank you so much for coming out, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're very welcome, my man.